Good morning and welcome to How Does the ICAPS Band Play During COVID-19, part of the Transitions Academy. We're very happy to be here today to learn from some of the programs and some of the folks that we have as our guest presenters. This session is brought to you by the ICSPS, the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and its director, Amy Julian, is here with us today, and the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, part of the Professional Development Network from Adult Education at ICCB. So we thank ICCB for this great partnership that we have. And our director of SIPDC, Bevan Gibson, is here, and she's going to introduce our presenters in just a minute. This is Sarah Goldammer. We're all very happy to be with you today. You are in mute because we have a lot of attendees, but if you have questions, feel free to put those in the question box. And we'll probably keep most of the questions until the end, unless you have a clarifying question, and then we will take those as they come. Also, this session will be recorded and will be available on the ICAPS website following this session. So at this point, let me turn it over to Bevan and let her introduce our panelists.
Good morning, everyone. Our band directors for today are Arlene Santos George from the College of Lake County, Dan Deasy from the College of DuPage, Laura Williams from Danville Area Community College, Elizabeth Hobson from Elgin Community College, and Christina Hutchison from Rend Lake College. And we'd like to welcome all of them and thank them for presenting today. We hope you enjoy this webinar, and we'll begin with Arlene.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. So thank you for having me here to share how CLC continued to offer ICAPS program during this time of a pandemic. I have my PowerPoint, so I'm not quite sure if it is visible to everybody.
It is.
It is.
It is. Okay, good. So as you know, community colleges have evolved successfully in more than 100 years because of its ability to respond quickly to changing demands in the workplace and in society. But this time is different. You know, we live, we work, and educate in the time of COVID-19. We're isolated to protect ourselves and our dear ones from a very contagious and deadly virus. And yet here we are again, talking about how successful our colleges have delivered ICAPS content and support classes last spring. So today I will share CLC's ICAPS experience in the time of COVID-19. I'll talk about what were the ICAPS programs at CLC when COVID hit us, what happened with enrollment. Second, I'll talk about how did the change in modality affect ICAPS offerings instruction. Third, what were the challenges we had to overcome and how did we address them? What academic and student support services did we provide? And then four, we have an assessment of what worked well and what didn't. And then lastly, how does the fall look like for our ICAPS offerings? So these are our ICAPS offerings. We have six Bridge to Career programs. And we are adding one more, business management and administration. We will be adding that in the fall. The newest one that we have was law, public safety, and security. We have 13 career certificate programs that are on the credit side. And then we have 2 non-credits. And the most recent one was the forklift technician, which is also supposed to be offered in the fall. Well, it was supposed to be offered this summer, but then, yeah, hell broke loose. So it's going to be offered in the fall. We also have a new entrepreneurship certificate model 2, and that's in progress. We're developing that also to be implemented in fiscal year 21. So here's our ICAPS enrollment. I'm just giving you a flavor of what we had to contend with in terms of the size or the smallness of the program and what we had to deal with this spring. But here are our ICAPS enrollment in seats. We had 41 seats in fiscal year 18. We only had like 4 departments participating in ICAPS at that time. In fiscal year 19, our ICAPS seats jumped 37%. With the new addition of phlebotomy technician and the personal care assistant. And then in fiscal year 20, we had a jump of 73% to 97 seats with the addition of automotive collision repair, administrative management and technology, computer information technology, and criminal justice. And this spring, or last spring, this is what we had to deal with. So we had to deal with 23 ICAP sections on the career and technical education side. We had an unduplicated headcount enrollment of 51, and then we had 19 support classes in adult education that we had to make sure all of this ran from March all the way to May. So how did COVID-19 hit CLC? Well, we had to really change gears really quickly. If you guys remember, I'm going to bring you back to memory lane 3 months ago. It was March 16 that week that ICCB announced that all adult ed classes were going to be suspended. At the same time, at that week, CLC began preparation or began talks and discussion about how are we going to offer all these credit classes and adult ed classes. And we all agreed that spring break is not going to be spring break. It's going to be work, 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 work. So we all worked together, CTE side, ICAPS departments, and adult ed. We all talked about how are we going to convert all credit and adult ed classes to online. And then March 30 to April 3rd, CLC began alternative delivery. And then adult ed, we were not really required to start the online classes, but we still did a pilot alternative delivery that week. And then April 8th, of course, adult ed was advised by ICCB to start our alternative delivery. So, so what happened then was, of course, I had like sort of a panic attack to a certain extent. But there was a barrage, a galore, downpour, convulsion of all these questions. But rather than be absorbed and burdened with all these questions, we all really began to think and organize and define strategies. But a lot of questions came to mind, like how are we going to convert our face-to-face classes? What about the ICAP support class? What classes can we deliver online, synchronous or asynchronous? What classes, lecture, lab, and clinicals cannot be delivered online? And then what are the CTE programs planning to do? And then what are the best practices in CTE and adult education, distance education? The most important thing too is what level of technology skills do our faculty have? What do they need? And what about our students? What resources and skills do they have? And then of course, outcomes-wise, how do we manage retention and student success? So it's really, like really, not really panicking, but you have this continuous flow of questions running through your mind, and that essentially I said, well, wait a second, we have to strategize. And so we first look at what our resources are. CLC has its own teaching, learning, and educational center for faculty support and assistance with training. We have our library and academic success units at CLC. We also have our adult education and CTE administrators working together. And then of course, there's all this support from ALRC, SIPDC, ICSPS. I hope I got all of those acronyms correct. And at the national level, there were, of course, ideas from adult education organizations such as COA, Pro Literacy, etc. And then, of course, most importantly, we have to rely on ourselves. I know the strength of our team in adult education, and we have a strong relationship with the academic division. So we had an organized panic strategizing. So we all came out with good plans. So third, I'm sure you're interested in like, how did we overcome these instructional challenges? So we mainly relied on meetings, communication, and of course, providing tools for everybody, both faculty and students, and also administrators. For meetings, I held daily what I call faculty assistance sessions for the 2 weeks prior to and the first week of CLC date for alternative delivery. These faculty assistance sessions were in Zoom, and they were mainly for the purpose of making sure that our faculty, we are able to troubleshoot our faculty's needs technologically or whatever alternative delivery system that they have decided to implement for their classes, because sometimes the adult education lower levels, they need face-to-face. But for the ICAPS classes, our adult ed instructors participated in those faculty assistance sessions because they also have their technological learning needs. And then the department chairs also followed up with daily sharing sessions for the same period. And in terms of communication, our student success coordinators, we have about 3.5 staff members who really are very dedicated staff members who check in with the ICAPS instructors throughout the semester to make sure that everything's going well with the students in their classes. And then the CTE and Adult Ed instructors continue to communicate before and after the Zoom classes. For tools, we had to equip our faculty with, of course, the technological know-how on how to use Blackboard, Panopto, Zoom, and now we're training them in Canvas. We also provided adult education Zoom trainings on various online resources and web or smartphone applications. You see a glimpse of, this is just a sample of the pictures of the different platforms and online web applications that we have had trainings on. We also provided campus mail services, printing and postage reimbursements for those faculty in ICAPS who also want to just mail in, like certain assignments or reading materials, and then the students actually mail it back. And so we provided campus mail services or printing and postage reimbursements. And then most importantly, like I said, we had to provide laptops and hotspots for faculty and students, especially those students who are the most in need. And then since it's really a very short time that we needed to adapt to technological tools that we need for online and distance education, we provided instructions for Zoom and also email resets for students. And we also provided instructions to students for Zoom and email resets. And these are both in English and Spanish. So this is just a snapshot of what those instructions look like. We basically text blasted these instructions. I don't know if anybody else uses this, but my program actually, what we do is we just text blast PDF files. And actually we have a good success with that. I find that it is the most effective means of communication to students because everybody has smartphones. They open up the PDF file, they read it. It's much faster than sending them an email. And then how did we teach ICAPS and the support class? Here are just some classwork strategies or practices that they did. In the beginning, the CTE or ICAPS instructors, they relied on the adult education instructors to help the students get started, how to install Zoom, how to log in Zoom, using their emails constantly. Adult ed instructors really help the ICAP students get started on the right foot. And then they basically use Zoom live classes during the scheduled ICAPS class schedules, which is actually mostly in the evenings. The adult ed instructor is also in those Zoom classes for those ICAPS courses. And sometimes the adult ed instructor actually stayed the entire time. They're only required like 50% of the time, but they said, no, we stayed there, Arlene. We really wanted to make sure that the students were not really being handheld, but we just really wanted to make sure, since it's a new learning environment, we wanted to make sure that they're comfortable. And then we also, they were able to do a lot of interactive stuff on Zoom. They use the breakout room, they use Annotate, they use the whiteboard, they use Poll. So our adult ed support instructors and our ICAPs, they all really trained well to make sure that the Zoom classes are still very engaging. And then they also use Blackboard for asynchronous portion for CTE. Some of the ICAPS programs have actually Cengage. I don't know if you're familiar with Cengage, but it is an online platform resource where all the books for, let's say, automotive technology or automotive collision repair, they're all there. All the books, all the reading materials, all the testing materials, practice exams, resources, and it's also where they can actually in Blackboard, they can also put videos, especially for the hands-on portion that that they're missing. So the CTE faculty actually created videos, or they subscribe to some video learning online tool, and they showed, let's say, for example, the parts of an automotive of a car. And then what the adult ed instructor will do in the support class is actually they use like Google Slides, wherein the students are now able to contribute a slide or two showing the part that they were interested in, and they talk about that in the Google slide, or they put pictures and narratives portions there as well. So it's really been an engaging process. However hard it was to learn in the beginning, but it was really an engaging process using Zoom as well as Blackboard. And then the other thing that they did too is that if a student really needed help, the adult ed instructor as well as the CTE instructor actually had one-on-one Zoom meetings with the student. And the instructors were actually telling me, Arlene, actually Zoom has brought everybody closer. We have never met with the students more frequently. They met with them more frequently now on a one-on-one basis than before COVID-19. So, and then there were no clinicals in spring. There were only labs that were brought through videos and review books. And there were some incomplete, grades of incomplete for CTE ICAPs with labs, but the students have a chance to complete them during what we call a completion camp in the summer. We have summer boost classes. And then in terms of communication, the CTE and adult ed instructor met before or after class via Zoom or phone calls, and then they get in touch with each other weekly through emails, phone calls, and texting. And then students were actually very comfortable reaching out to both instructors. And then the CTE and adult ed instructors reach out to students via email, text, phone, and Zoom. And then for adult ed, how did we support the ICAP students? As I mentioned, there's 3.5 student success coordinators, and they check in with students through email, text, phone calls weekly. We also provided financial assistance to the students, to the ICAP students. Those who were documented and were Pell eligible, we actually directed them to apply for the CARES Act. And those that we know were undocumented, we were able to secure some foundation money in the amount of $10,000 for undocumented students. So it was a faster process for them to apply because it was really, they were really in dire need, sometimes food, and they didn't have food. And so we were able to give them like $300, $400, $500. And then the student success coordinators provided referrals to Mano a Mano. Mano a Mano is a very strong, very visible community-based organizations that help Hispanics, gain citizenship and healthcare, referrals, legal services, et cetera, et cetera. And then we also provided job search services because we know that those ICAP students, some of them may have been laid off from their current jobs, and so we help them with their resumes, get logged into Lancer Job Link, and also attend job information sessions. These are all actually done by one staff member that I have, and he is basically just responsible for helping students find jobs. And then for the tools, I'm sorry, am I almost done?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I will wrap it up really quickly.
A little bit, and then Dan will take over.
Okay, and then we provided laptops and hotspots for students, and then of course we provided the instruction for Zoom. We have an alert system, so that is my timer. So stop. Here's our retention statistics. So we almost really were pretty successful in almost all of the ICAPS programs. We have 100%, meaning they were retained. After COVID-19 hit, they still stayed in class all the way to the end. Criminal justice only had 75%, but computer information technology had the lowest, but they also have the lowest number. So what worked and what didn't? Everybody loves Zoom. Students love Zoom. Faculty love Zoom. Faculty learned really fast on how to use this technology. Zoom had all the teaching tools. It was all very engaging. What worked really well too is the collaboration between the CTE and Adult Ed instructors. They attended each other's class. So Adult Ed instructor attended the ICAPS CTE class, and the CTE instructor attended the Adult Ed support class. So that really worked very well. Our department chair visited the Adult Ed support classes, always being there to help. And then faculty interacted more with students in and out of Zoom. Resources and tools were made available. And then I will say 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and commitment, all were strengths. What didn't work is Wi-Fi connection is sometimes choppy. There were no labs and politicals, so there was uncertainty of graduation. Technical support was not readily available in real time. And then there was one CTE instructor that did not provide detailed instructions for assignments on Blackboard. And then we need more videos for hands-on lessons. So what does fall look like? It's still to be determined, but most likely it will be online classes, a preponderance of online Zoom or Zoom Live or asynchronous classes in Canvas, some face-to-face. We will definitely provide virtual support services from the student success team, and then we'll be having limited on-site staffing services. And then we are ordering more hardware resources for our students. And then we will also make sure that the students who need health certifications to enter healthcare programs, that we would properly refer them and give them information. And that's it, folks. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Arlene. Now we're going to switch over to Dan Deasy, and he'll share his screen.
Can you see it right now? Hello?
Yes, yes, we can see it, Dan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry. Thank you for allowing me to participate in this. I appreciate it. It's great to not only see some of the best practices that are occurring across the state, but also to know that we're all in the same boat and share the same troubles. So I will try to be brief. I'm just going to cover some of the challenges and successes that we encountered when we switched over to 100% at a distance learning within our ICAPS programs. One of the existing programming that we had ongoing, we had one bridge program for GED or high school equivalency students in the information and technology sector. And then we had 4 cohorts of the IET programming or ICAPS programming, manufacturing MSSC certified production technician. We had 2 office technology cohorts within the office technology specialist certification. And then we had a pilot that we began this spring, actually, on an entrepreneurship small business startup. So I'll talk a little bit about those and some of the positive things that we had on our side going into this situation. So we did have some advantages prior to switching to at a distance as far as how our programs were structured and the preparation level of our students to successfully make that jump. All of our bridge and IET students receive a Chromebook or laptop upon enrollment. So once they complete the orientation session, they're provided a laptop or a Chromebook for use until completion or of the program or until their certification is complete. So all of our students in ICAPS and in the bridge course had access to technology. We made sure that they had access to Wi-Fi or internet outside of the classroom as well. Our bridge and IET programming already incorporated online components, either direct instruction or through supplemental instruction or both. And on the plus side, outside of the entrepreneurial pilot, the academic side of the house, or the academic curriculum, there were components that were delivered online already, or scheduled to be delivered online already in the office technology programs and in the MSSC program as well. Much of the curriculum is delivered online. So students were used to participating in that learning environment. Again, it's a challenge getting them into that environment, but by the time we had to switch these courses over to at a distance, our students were pretty acclimated in participating in online curriculum delivery and using the technology to be successful in that. All of our Bridge and IET programs utilize Blackboard or Canvas, so they were already used to that learning management system when we had to switch over to all at a distance instruction. Another a bonus kind of or advantage is most of the traditional courses that feed into these programs. One would be our IEL Civics IDEA program, and I'll cover that in a little bit more detail. And also our transition ready or transition leveled courses, core courses. We offer sections online. So our advanced ELA, our high school equivalency courses, we have online options for those core courses, and those are served to feed into our ICAPS program. So many of the students that are coming into the program have already experienced an online environment. We incorporate the North Star digital literacy assessments as well as part of that orientation onboarding to identify the digital literacy needs of students, and we create a plan, an individualized instruction plan to increase those digital literacy skills at the very beginning of their ICAPS experience. IDEA is a program that was out of design in Washington State, and we use this as our IEL civics education program, and this serves as IET feeder for our ELA on the ELA side of the house. So essentially it targets high beginning and high intermediate learners. The instruction is in the context of college and career readiness, so they're walking into the IET with that mindset and some of those skills that are necessary to continue successfully in a career pathway, educational career pathway. It's modularized instruction. The cool thing about it is the students experience a flipped delivery model. So they are doing online coursework prior to the face-to-face experience. So these students that are moving forward into an IET program already have the experience of doing work on their own, self-paced work on their own, which is a huge advantage when you're moving into, this is a kind of a hybrid model, but it's a huge advantage when you're moving over to a complete online instructional delivery model. So prior to the actual meat of the course, or the curriculum of the course, students go through a week and a half to 2 weeks of digital literacy instruction to get up to speed and get those skills necessary to participate in a hybrid or online environment. They have access to a technology coach. And just throwing this in, this model has been very successful for us within the core offering. So just our core high intermediate ELA offerings. As far as the EFL level gains, we've experienced a 10 to 15% higher percentage of gains than in our traditional delivery model. So just quickly, this is the IET feeder. So primarily this program will feed into our office technology or our information technology IET programming. Just graphic visualization of this. Once they complete their IDEA course at a high intermediate level, they move into, and this example is the office technology specialist certification track. They move into this track in conjunction with the academic program. They're taking an advanced ELA course, and they also get resource time to support the needs that they identify within that academic track. We've created an entrepreneurial program. I mentioned a pilot program. This is just a brief or a graphic of that. That was put together in partnership with our Small Business Development Center and an entity called Innovation DuPage, which is a business accelerator or incubator. Parts of that model are online delivered. This one was had probably the least online or at a distance learning out of the IETs that we had currently going in spring. They did use Burlington English as a supplement, so they were used to not only utilizing the learner management system of Blackboard, but they also were using Burlington English to supplement their instruction in the course. There was an interactive orientation session for enrolled students to provide additional resources and tools for them to transition. Once we had to move over to the complete at-a-distance delivery, we had an orientation and training for students. During the break, we got a break, as Arlene mentioned, after March 17th. So the faculty in all the programs worked on, collaborated on how to deliver the academic team teaching component, as well as the support and adult ed components completely at a distance. So we used that time for that collaborative process and came up with some best practices as far as how to deliver and move forward completely at a distance. We moved all of our ELA and support components to at a distance. The only major change that we made to the actual plotting out or timeline of the course for the entrepreneurial model is that we slowed down the pacing and extended time. This was a Model 2 course, so we had a bit more flexibility on the academic side of the house to deliver the academic content. The instructors were concerned with kind of the switchover and how that would affect the students' ability to keep up if we kept it at the original pacing and structure. So we did slow down the content and extended time for that course. This is our manufacturing model for ELA students. So again, a brief visualization of that. Most of the components of the MSSC on the academic side were already delivered through online instruction. We were already using Burlington English as a supplement. So again, we used the time in between March 17th and when we had to start up again for the collaborative process between the academic faculty and the adult ed faculty to come up with best practice and best means to deliver everything at a distance. And we also moved the ELA and support components at a distance. Case management and supports for all of our students that are enrolled in the ICAPS program. So our workforce development coordinator and our student success coaches normally perform regular check-ins with all the students enrolled in the IET programs. Once we moved to at a distance, we were utilizing online tools to maintain that check-in, Zoom, and also phone calls if students could not participate in the Zoom at the time. So we continue to do those check-ins at a distance, identifying barriers, trying to provide resources to those students. In addition, we continue to do presentations for those students. Our success coaches do presentations. Normally they come into a class and present to those courses as far as next steps, whether the stackable credentials or employment opportunities for those students. Those were all conducted at a distance through Zoom. So all students were scheduled to meet in a synchronous fashion through Zoom for those presentations. And then our student success coaches would follow up with students individually. Our normal supports through the institution, like career services, financial aid, all of those supports were moved to at a distance within those units. So we took advantage, just as we would in the traditional delivery sense, where students needed those services, we linked them, and those are provided at a distance, such as resume writing, job search activities, interview skills. Each of the support units were mandated to move all of their delivery options to at a distance, like the rest of the college on the academic side. Our AE team, our adult education team, our management team, we scheduled weekly Zoom meetings with all the Bridge faculty and IET faculty for check-ins to be able to provide resources if they had concerns, share best practices among the faculty. We actually did this across all of our core faculty, but we also included the Bridge and IET faculty at that time. So what lies ahead? Fall right now, our college is planning to offer all programming or the majority of programming in a hybrid model. So we are going to have 50% of the course delivery being run online and 50% being run face-to-face, and of course following all of the safety protocols that are in place. Our assessment and orientation sessions right now have been developed to offer at a distance. We are certainly hoping that, given the hybrid model is an option right now, that we will have some in-person assessment opportunities and also in-person orientation sessions following the safety protocols. Expectations, though, we kind of sense that it may certainly fall apart, this original plan. So we have already moved our recruitment and information sessions to at-a-distance presentations, synchronous, and then we also will have video recordings that can be accessed through our website for students to participate or just view what the information sessions are about, and then we would do follow-up with them. Our assessments, we have our assessment team and a bulk of our faculty going through the at-a-distance training right now to provide placement and pre-testing with CASAS and TABE and digital literacy assessments. So we are ready to take that to completely at a distance. Our hope is that we will not have to, because we feel it's more effective, obviously, in person, just logistically, and the student experience, I believe, is greatly impacted. But we are ready to do that. We will provide modularized digital literacy instruction as part of the pre-program work to get people up to speed on using computers and the tools necessary to successfully complete and participate in and complete an ICAPS or IET program. And then we'll continue at a distance case management. So we've already set up that kind of that structure or model within our program institution. We would worst case scenario continue that at a distance case management through Zoom or other electronic means or phone, and provide those, identify the needs and provide those supports where possible. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to Laura Williams from Danville Area Community College.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm a music, I love music, and I love to think of different songs, and all I can think of right now, my perfect one is A Ball of Confusion, because that's what things have been with all of the different social unrest and the COVID. So our team's been hanging in there and just learning as we go along. So I'm going to talk to you about what we were doing in the spring, what we're doing now for the summer in terms of ICAPS, high school equivalency, technology, and then one of the areas that we are really focusing on is recruiting and retaining, because I think that's been one of the most difficult problem areas in our area. So for ICAPS for the spring, we were doing like everybody else. We were going along. March 12th was actually our last day on campus. Spring break was coming up the week of March 23rd. This is our healthcare model that was running, and so we had 12 students in that, and they were preparing to become certified nursing assistants. We were running several high school equivalency classes, and you can see how that looked. We had day classes, we had night classes, on campus, off campus, much like all of you. So COVID came along, we were running at normal, then the COVID came, things went crazy, and then I think they're pretty cool right now. So for the high school equivalency, some of the things that we did, basically the writing was on the wall, and I knew it was going to hit, and I knew we had iPathways tucked away in somewhere in most of our memories. And so I wasn't using iPathways a lot because I felt it was better to have the face-to-face instruction, but I knew about iPathways and I've used iPathways, and thankfully we've had lots of opportunities to learn about iPathways. So I called Kathy Olson Tracy. I said, can you please do a quick webinar? And of course she agreed. And so all of my teachers came in and they quickly learned how to do iPathways just in case we didn't come back after spring break. And of course we didn't. So we had developed a letter that we sent to all of our current students. And in that, we gave them their DAC student email, their logon information, and a how-to infograph saying, if we don't come back, this is what it's going to look like. And, you know, thankfully they did have that because we didn't come back. So we were trying to prepare as best we could. And, you know, we were in hopes we wouldn't need it, but we actually did. So our teachers began working remotely with our students. And then I think Zoom's been a lifesaver for many, many, many programs. And so we had weekly Zoom meetings with staff and instructors, and then instructors were using that with students as well. With ICAPS, so the same thing, they received that letter because they are in HSE classes as well. We contacted the Illinois Department of Public Health for guidance because any of you that works with healthcare with CNA, you know you have to have 40 hours of in-person clinicals. So how is that going to happen, especially since the nursing homes and facilities that serve the elderly were basically on lockdown and they weren't allowing people in, rightfully so. So IDPH said we could do 20 hours of online skills and then 20 hours at the facility after the student was done. So normally students would do 40 hours and then we would give them their certificate, DAC would certify that, and they were on their way to be able to test. So the current situation is that they do the 20 hours of skills online, and then if they do get a job in a nursing facility, that facility will notify us and we'll get the 20 hours that the facility has done with them, and then that's how they will actually earn their certificate. We had Blackboard, and that's something that the college already had, so all of our instructors came in for Blackboard training. And again, I think probably one of my biggest messages here is that just being prepared. You know, Blackboard's been offered for a while, and normally we would not use Blackboard at all with our in any association with HSE classes. However, there were always training sessions, so our teachers would go to some of those because that's how they got professional development too. We had to really look to find an online skill provider that the teachers felt comfortable with, and so we purchased Evolved Elsevier. We purchased a Zoom professional account. We loaned out computers. If the students just absolutely couldn't do it, we allowed them that grace to say, we get it. I mean, we all were thrown into this situation and that's not what they bargained for. And so we have allowed students to withdraw. And with that caveat, they will be able to re-enroll at no charge for anything to do with the actual college side of the house as far as the CNA class and any of the costs associated with that. We conversed with our WIOA team to make sure they were good with that. And, you know, again, we all realized it was a situation that no one could control. So we are definitely going to let the students that did withdraw come back as soon as we were able to do that. And then any student, I think most of the community colleges receive some type of COVID dollars, and students that were in our ICAPS program, because they were in college level classes with the CNA portion, they were able to get a stipend for $250 to assist with anything they needed. This is a shot of what it looked like to do skills online, because when you think about it, skills, that's something you need to see in person. So we have our instructor in the middle, and she actually, we had one instructor that wanted to do that face-to-face, so she actually did it through Zoom and had family members participate with students, and that's how she was able to get that. I thought that was a pretty cool clip of how things could work, so I wanted to be sure to include that. Zoom. You get the picture. So many people were doing Zoom, and Zoom is really a cheap format. And so I think there were some issues with the Zoom credibility at first, but I think all that was fixed. Again, we already had Blackboard. Many students had their cell phones, and although there's a lot of technology that's not compatible on cell phones, Zoom is something that was compatible. We had Google Classroom, and then readworks.org. That's a great free service where you can assign reading, literacy types of things for students on a grade level. So that's just kind of an added bonus too. And there were some webinars on ReadWorks. So, we had already done ReadWorks several years ago as a part of our in-service for professional development. And I had found that and I really liked it. So some of my teachers were already continuing to use that. So that was a good free thing that we could continue to do. And then of course there's money, 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 money. Bevan, that one was for you. So when ICCB came out and said, do you need some extra money? If you do, put in for it. Tell us what you're going to use it for. So we did ask for $5,000 additional dollars. I saw the list of people that did apply, and some of our programs didn't, and that's fine because you had something that you had to use. But we used it because we don't have disposable books. Our books, you know, they're kind of like gold. We make sure the students don't write in them, and we keep those books and we use them from class to class, semester to semester. We needed something to give students because, again, computers are not for everybody. So we were able to, with the bulk of the $5,000, we bought disposable workbooks, and we're going to use those with our summer classes. So students were receiving paper packets, and they were using the computer with the teachers already to end that spring semester. But my teachers were doing a lot of copying, and it just wasn't really conducive. And again, the college was closed, so coming in and trying to make copies. And I don't know how your graphics department is, but ours is pretty strong on you don't make mass copies on the printers and copiers that are in your offices. So disposable books are going to be huge. Of course, we do have the Zoom subscription, and then we had to buy cameras to make sure that we have good technology when we're communicating with our students. But where were our students? So we did have some that hung in there. Some of them did the iPathway. Some of them have done the paperwork, but not nearly the number that we had prior to COVID. So, you know, as we were preparing to get ready for summer, we were getting our teachers ready. We were getting our supplies ready. But where were the students? How were they going to know that we were open for business? So, you know, we were really trying to reach out to them and make sure that they would know. So how do you do that? So I, drum roll please, and this is what I tell my staff all the time: if we have no students, we have no program, we have no money, and we're not fulfilling our mission of serving, which is why I think most of us are in adult ed, to serve our students. So I absolutely wasn't going to sit around. And again, I keep making my Bevan references, but Born to be Wild that's absolute Bevan descriptor. We and again, being at the table and learning and watching, being your own advocate. So we weren't going to sit around and wait for things to get figured out, for the students to find us again someday. We had to reach out. So how did we do that with marketing? So again, that whole being prepared thing, because you need to make sure that you're in front of people. You need to make sure that you're making partner connections all the time, because you never know when you're going to need that connection. And not that you make quotation mark friends for that purpose, but when things happen, you're there for each other. So we have a reporter who's all the time calling us, and we're calling her and giving her our newspaper ideas. And I don't know how your marketing department works. I understand that some colleges have to work through their marketing department, but we have the freedom to work within and outside of that. So that's what I did. So I called the newspaper. We had a front page article that talked about what we were doing, and that we were going to be up and running for summer. We have several local radio stations. I called them. I scheduled appointments for me to be on their shows. The Vermilion County First, it's a morning show that runs from 7:30 to 8 each morning, and tons of people listen to that. And so I wanted to make sure that I was on there, but I don't know that that's so much my student market, but it's definitely people who have contact with my students. So even though it's not your market, you need to think outside the box that maybe it is within your people that touch those people. Same thing with WITY, I had a 15-minute show with that. And then our internal marketing, I contacted them, they do the press release, then the local TV stations picked it up. We did Facebook releases, we did our Gmail, our email contacts with everybody. I blasted out our summer flyers. We have a YouTube channel. So again, just trying to hit anything that we could possibly hit. And our Facebook shares are just incredible once that person takes it on to the next person, etc. So exponential growth with that. So I really encourage you to look at some of those. Then we had, so with the Danville Housing Authority, that has all of Vermilion County, and they have 650 approximately resident units. I contacted them. Again, they are a WIOA partner. We have a good working relationship. And I asked them if they would put our flyers in with their rent bills, because they've done this for us before with other things. So they actually put 650 flyers that went out, a blast to everybody in Vermilion County. Again, just another way to reach out to try to let our students know we're here. I use my external network. So we have a community in Danville, a nonprofit called Step Up, and it's basically where tons of community members go. They do breakout groups. They try to find solutions to local problems, and their email contact list is huge. These are people like counselors and probation and police and Boys and Girls Club, anything that you can think of. People are joined with that. I contacted them and I asked them if they would blast out my flyer. They did. So we've had over 250 members receive that. And from that, just yesterday, I had a call from the Department of Rehab asking, since we were online, if we could serve deaf students, which we could serve deaf students anyways, but they thought this would be an excellent format. We had a place that serves homeless call and say, hey, we have some money and we would also like to help tutor students. How can we be of service? And then we had Community Action, one of our other WIOA partners, send out, follow up that email with one to everybody saying, and we have money to pay for testing and anything else the student needs. So again, just those contacts going. Contacted probation, they blasted it out to all of their officers who in turn share it with the people that they need. The Department of Human Services, all of them have it, and of course our WIOA partners. And then I said, we have to reach back. We have to let everybody know that we're open. What are we going to do? So we pulled up a list off of Daisy, and we were able to get addresses, phone numbers of any student that we've had in the past year. All of them received letters, and of course, you know how fluid our population can be sometimes. So the phone numbers, a lot of them didn't work. Addresses probably aren't going to work, but it's one way, even if it's kind of like throwing that starfish back in the ocean, it makes a difference to that one. So you need to really think outside the box to varied marketing to get things going. And then, we can be sitting down in the dump and worried about how things are going and just woe is me, or we can get up and we can do things and we can let people know that we're here. We're not going to sink. We are going to swim. I mean, we are survivors, right? So, dance break time. I think we should all just celebrate and just take part in what we have done, because we are survivors. We do work good, and I like people to embrace it, because what else is there to do? You embrace it or you don't. We're stuck with it, so we should embrace it. Thank your team. Let people know you appreciate them. Let them know you appreciate the work they've done and the work they're going to put into your students, and just be a good partner and appreciate your whole team. Thank you, and on to our next person.
Thank you, Laura. We're going to move to Elizabeth Hobson, but while she's bringing her screen up, let me just tell you, Laura, that we had a comment from Whitney Thompson of ICCB that your marketing outreach activities were amazing. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for playing music. Little known fact, we'll see at 11:30 when we finish up, we might have a dance party. We'll see, we're working on that. Okay, let's turn it over to Elizabeth Hobson.
Okay, do you see my screen now with my first slide?
Yes.
Okay, super. So again, I wanted to share with you how ECC was going through this whole COVID situation. So I want to talk a little bit about the spring and summer, how we've done marketing, recruitment, and enrollment, and then how we are planning for the future. So first, I want to share with you the programs that ECC has. So we have 3 bridge programs: early childhood education, healthcare, industrial arts or manufacturing. And then we have 9 ICAPS or IET pathways. So we have BNA, CNC, dental office aide, emergency medical technician, basic, HVAC, IMT, phlebotomy, sterile processing and distribution, as well as welding. So I want to share first with you about a Strengthening Opportunities grant that we received. And the reason I want to share with you about it is because the collaboration and some of the other things that happened due to having this grant over the last several years put us in a better spot in order to kind of weather the storm, so to speak, of the COVID-19. So in fall 2016, ECC was awarded this 5-year U.S. Department of Education grant, and we used it to scale up ICAPS and to expand the available pathways. So again, some of the things that happened during this process of developing and executing these additional pathways, obviously we needed to stick with the basic initiative of ICAPS, but we had groups that got together, a lot of the stakeholders within the college. For example, obviously we had CTE and Adult Education, we had workforce, we had registration, advising, just marketing, many of the different departments and divisions within the college. We would get together and we had meetings to kind of see how this would play out at the college level. It promoted understanding, gained cooperation, and also it allowed other departments to have a better understanding of what ICAPS was, so that they could also be able to inform students and be available to understand at least a little bit, or at least, okay, we know this program exists and we can share something about it to students. Additionally, during this time, we encouraged more of a we perspective or philosophy instead of an us and them. So for example, we might be sitting in a meeting and perhaps a CTE faculty would be talking about your students, the ICAP students, but referring to them as your students, meaning they were adult education students. And over time, we've been able to kind of convey this idea that we're all working together. It's we're one team, and we want to work together for the benefit of the students. So welding and all these other programs, it's their program, but we're there to support it, not to be a separate program. So that's kind of how we came together as we. Additionally, we worked towards block scheduling for students to be consistent. So we wanted it to, when we first started some of the ICAPS programs, there were scenarios in which the classes the students were supposed to take had big gaps in the timeline. So maybe there was one in the morning and then there was an hour or 2 or 3 between the next one. Or conversely, there were scenarios wherein the classes were run at the same time. So that wasn't good either. So we worked together to develop these schedules. So the vast majority of our ICAPS programs now run from somewhere between 8 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. And this is consistent for our 2-semester pathways. It's consistent over both semesters. And for the 1-semester pathway, it's also consistent such that as we're advertising and so forth, we can tell students that for the most part, the pathways will run between 8 and 2, so they can work scheduling and of their other things they have work and so forth around that. We also simplified registration, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a minute. So one of the most important things that we did that has also really helped in this COVID situation is the hiring of 2 student support specialists. And their key roles are student case management. They coordinate with CTE, and they also do workplace readiness workshops wherein they talk about different kinds of workplace communication, and then they're also working on resumes, interview skills, and that kind of thing. So as far as case management, they are reaching out with students, and when there's barriers to attending class and so forth, they work with the students in order to see if they can overcome those barriers, find strategies for the students to be successful if they encounter things that are making that difficult. Okay, so in the spring, we were able to finish our bridge programming virtually, so that was easy. But the ICAPS programming was a different story. So much as obviously everybody else, in mid-March, we had to leave campus. We too were on spring break, so that gave us a week, and then we took another week to assist faculty in trying to figure out how were they going to work this all out going remotely. The college was very generous in allowing folks to purchase all kinds of equipment, whether that was a webcam or headphones, if they needed a new computer, just all kinds of things that would assist them in being able to facilitate class from a remote situation. So again, our student support specialist and the support course faculty, they were absolutely key as everything went remote. They collaborated and communicated with our students. They provided information to the students. They provided reassurance. They really were key. These two groups of folks, the student support specialist and our support course faculty, just did a phenomenal job in communicating with our students. So the practicals and labs are now resuming. Many of them started this last week, now that we were able to do that since the stay-at-home order has been lifted. And of course, we're following all the necessary safety guidelines, including the physical or social spacing between students. And a number of the labs have needed to lower the number of students who are coming in attendance at one time, and then just having multiple groups. Instead of everyone coming at once, multiple groups are coming in order to keep those numbers low. The clinicals will resume when possible, but as you've heard from some of the other presenters as well, our hospitals and other health facilities, many of them are not allowing students back on their sites yet. And so we're looking forward to hearing when we'll be able to have students back, but we may not know about that until late summer or early fall. One positive thing is that ECC doesn't normally run bridge programming or ICAPS in the summer. So at least we didn't have another group of students that was following right in on their footsteps that we needed to figure out how we would have this additional students completing labs and so forth. So for marketing, recruitment, and enrollment, the majority of that has now moved to a virtual environment. So we have a number of ways in which we inform students about ICAPS and Bridge classes. And one of those is through parts of the presentation of our orientations and workshops. In the past, these have been face-to-face, but now, of course, we're working on developing them to be remote. And in addition to that, our adult education transitions coordinator and our student support specialists would come and do face-to-face presentations in all of our classes. So they also are going to continue doing that, but instead of a face-to-face presentation, they're going to be popping in, so to speak, during synchronous portions of the class time. So another thing, and this is a great piece that again has come from the having this Title III grant and all the collaboration that's happened across the college, is that if a student is going through the process of college admissions, advising, or just is in contact with somebody and they are aware that that student is interested in ICAPS, they are sent to, or the student's name rather, is sent to the student support specialist, who will then reach out to that student. So one example of this, which is how many of the students find out about ICAPS, is they are interested in, say, the welding program. So they're going through the college admissions and advising process for welding. And during that time, their name is sent to the student support specialist. So the college advisors do let the students know about ICAPS, but then they get this additional contact from the student support specialist who will give them, you know, a lot of the information and help them decide if ICAPS is something that is important to them or something that will work well for them and something they're interested in. We also will be, now with everything going online, we will be posting announcements within Desire to Learn. Everybody's shell has a place for news, and that seems like that would be the perfect place to put an announcement about the ICAPS and Bridge programs. We'll also be sending virtual flyers to the One Stop and other community partners that we have. And we also will still be making hard copy flyers, and we will go out and post them as that becomes possible for us to do and as more businesses are opening. And then, of course, there's information on the college website, and the college does use social media also for marketing and recruitment. So focusing in a little bit more on enrollment, as I have mentioned previously, the college enrollment process is how our ICAP students enroll. So they do come through that regular process to use admissions, advising, and registration. Now, when we have students that are in the adult ed program only, we get them all sort of lined into this or streamlined into this process. So the student support specialists play a very large role here. They coordinate this whole student experience by making sure that students are in the ICAPS sections, because many of the CTE programs do run multiple sections. So the student support specialist will make sure that they're in the ICAPS section. They'll make sure that they are enrolled in the adult education support class. And they also do kind of coordinate the adult education testing piece as well. In the past, we were using TABE 1112, but this year we are moving to the new CASA's goals test that's recently been approved. Our Bridge students, they enroll through the regular adult education process. And in the past, this was an entirely face-to-face endeavor, but we are working right now on changing that to remote. So that's, again, something we're working on right now, getting that set so students can do it all remotely. And Bridge students also speak with our adult education transitions coordinator. So she is the person who will give them a lot more information about the requirements, what to expect in the class, and as well as at the end, meets with them and talks about future goals that they have and kind of what their future pathway will be to continue, whether it's into ICAPS or what their goals are. So for the future, as we look at fall, with the COVID-19 situation still being so fluid, and we're not totally sure, are we going to be in phase 3? Are we going to be in phase 4? What if we fall back to one of the previous phases? Will we have another stay-at-home order where, as we all know, this is so up in the air. So very little has actually been confirmed. But we are having a lot of conversations about different possibilities for labs and clinicals. So things that have been discussed include front-loading the face-to-face of the labs, enrollment section caps to keep the numbers lower so that even if we're allowed to have more students now, if we would change phases, would we still have a number that's okay to keep the students face-to-face even with new guidelines? Shorter sessions. So right now we are primarily 16-week sessions, but there's been conversations about, well, what if we did like some 8-week modules or some 10 or 12 weeks? So that's being discussed. We've talked about, do we start online and have the labs to follow? Or we've also talked about making sure that all the face-to-face instruction is finished by Thanksgiving. So again, just a lot of different things have been talked about, but nothing has yet to be confirmed. The clinical scheduling that's needed for some of the ICAPS programming is still a challenge, and it's still unknown, simply because, as I previously mentioned, we don't know when we'll be able to get students on clinical sites. The adult education support class, we do have a lot more control over that. And what we've decided to do is have those classes be synchronous remote classes. So they'll still be able to be very responsive to the ICAPS pathways that they support, but again, just so that we're not having to change a lot of classes depending on what happens with the Restore Illinois plan with COVID, we're going to have those be synchronous. The faculty already have been using Desire to Learn, but we're going to have them use more of the features, again, because the class will be going remote. They'll have more opportunities to use more of the features on Desire to Learn. And the other thing is that we're planning to do is to have these support instructors not attend the labs. So for some of them, they don't attend anyway, but for some of them, they do attend. And we're going to have them sit out this semester, though, because that way, again, it will contribute to having fewer in the lab if that's one less person that has to be counted. Because obviously you have the instructor, and in some cases you maybe have a lab manager, and then if we go and add our support instructor, again, it's just adding up the numbers. So we're going to ask them for this semester to not sit in the lab, and we're very fortunate that all of our instructors have already, who this would impact, have already taught their support class previously and have already attended the lab if it's one that's attended. So obviously it's important to attend when possible, but this is a scenario where we think it would be better if they sit out. So thank you very much, and I hope that's been helpful, hearing a little bit about what we're doing at Elgin Community College.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We appreciate it. It's so interesting to hear what all the different programs are doing. And now, last but not least, we have Christina Hutchison from Run Lake College, who's bringing up her screen. And we thank you for sharing, Christina. Christina, you're muted. If you could unmute, that'd be great. We want to be sure and hear you.
Okay.
There you go.
I have two screens and I'm trying to make sure I'm sharing the right one. Is it just tell me what you're seeing.
It says the leader of the band.
Okay. All right. Whoops. Got a pop up down there. My segment of it is going to be, we're going to talk about the plan. Have you got everybody on the right page? Is everyone, well, I am not seeing what you're seeing. Bear with me, I thought I had this all together. Is my screen, is it gone? Sarah,
So
so far.
we're still seeing the leader of the band.
Okay. All right. Ah.
There you go, that's the beginning.
That's it, thank you.
Marvelous.
All right, so now it's not advancing on me. You told me to hurry up and get done, but now it's.
So Christina, you need to put your cursor on it and click and then advance. There you go, that worked.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about if you have your plan is ready to go, talk about some marketing, recruitment, what resources, working together, and then assessing your outcomes. So as many of our other partners have talked. Have you talked to your CTE partners? Do you know what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be presenting? Or do your adult ed teachers have access to the Blackboard and Canvas? And if they have access, do they know how to use it? Are they using simulation software, small groups? How are they going to offer that practicum or lab class? Once again, is there specific software that your teachers are going to need to have access to? So those are all questions that you need to have conversation with as you get ready to start going remotely. So how do you find your band members? How do you recruit those students? From a remote possibility, I mean, I did depend a lot on Facebook, but I didn't just post it to our page and hope they would find it. I went out and I started looking for other pages, such as the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Clubs, our We All Were One Stops. I know around here we have a lot of community chat groups, sometimes on Facebook Marketplace, newspapers, websites, but you have to go out there and post your advertisement or your opportunities so that they'll be able to find it. I find I get far more hits and likes and shares from going out into the community than I do from just posting it on our website. And of course, you need to tailor your message. If you're going to the Chamber of Commerce or the Rotary, you need to address it as, do you have workers that could benefit from this class? Or if you're going to just a chat group, hey, here's a chance for you to do something while you're sitting at home. Also, you need to do a variety of formats. I did just our little flyer. I really like this. Our marketing department put this together for us as part of our rebranding, the Skills Center. It's simple, clean, easy to read. So it takes a little time to go into all those different sites and post, but it's well worth the effort. And then you got to respond to the inquiries. If you get somebody that hits on one of your sites or leaves a comment, you need to respond to it. I know I even got a negative comment because our website is adulted.com. And if you look at adult ed, it almost looks like adulted. And I got this comment that says, oh, I'm not responding to this. Are you crazy? I would never do that. And so I had to respond with, I'm really sorry, you're not interested. We really are a legitimate site and you could look us up. But yeah, it was a kind of a humorous for a moment. Okay, some other formats that we use. Once again, our marketing department put this together. Whoop, back one. And did success stories here. Nothing wants to work as it did in practice. And as bad as I hated to, I went and made a little blip and appealed to students myself, asking them to reconnect with the program. It was simple, it's easy to load up. So sometimes that personal touch might bring somebody in. But then I also found this site here. It's called Amiado. I found it to be a very easy to use and simple tool for developing your own videos. It's they have a free version or they have a paid version of it. And here's where I designed it. And it's all, you can use stock photos and just plot those in. You incorporate your own, you could add your own music. But it's a very simple, easy to use site. If you can do a PowerPoint, then you could develop this. And then you could also get another piece that's ready and ready to put out there in a different format that helps catch attention. So let's get back to this. Let's see if this will, it's going to play just a little bit of that so you can see what it looks like. Yeah, so if I can do this, anybody else can do this. It's a very simple, easy to use. And I think a year on it is only like $500, $600. All right. So once you've found your band members, you've got to pull them in and get them registered and ready. I give Lynn Burkett a shout out because I heard this during our administrators meeting where she did her intake form online. So I started researching to see how I could do that. I actually did this on Word, and it was a very simple tool to use. Once again, there it is. You can add it where you have drop-down menus, where everything that is in the ICCB recommended format, you just can put it in here and they can do their check marks. And at the end, they submit, and it ends up in my email box. So now the one thing about this tool, if you're going to design it in Word, you have to add this tab right here called the developer. And it takes a little practice to learn how to do and how to add all the different pieces to it. But with a little practice, you could get it. Okay. Now, you got to gather up your instruments. What resources do you have and how are you going to get them to your students? If you don't have an online tool for sharing your workforce skills or anything, here's a couple that are free. The Skills to Pay the Bills, Empowering Your Future, and they have all the different lessons are right there. They're prepped. All you have to do is find the one that matches with the concept you're trying to teach. We did both. We emailed different worksheets. We did hold some video classes. There is one thing I want to say on the video classes, though. When I was researching, it said that sometimes if a student is very hesitant to join you on a video class, you need to honor that. There could be a very legitimate reason. They don't want someone knowing where they live or fear of someone finding them. So we always allow students the option to not show the video, but they can still set in without that picture on. We also had plenty of one-on-one phone calls and video chats. And last case scenario, we would put together a packet and mail it to students. So if they have the same tool that the teachers are working with, then you could do the one-on-one calls. And one of the tools here, if you are familiar with this, in New York City, they have these career kits. And it is a wonderful tool because it has the lesson plans and it has these nice checklists that tells you the different lessons they're teaching. It talks about the skills in reading, math, and all those, so you know exactly what skill you're teaching and if it's hitting. It also makes combining outcomes with your CTE instructors a lot easy. They do come in PDF. So if you wanted to transfer them to Word, just make sure it's an approved Word or PDF to Word, because there's a lot of them out there that look a little shady to me. So I left you the website out there if you wanted to check that out. So now it's time to make some music. It's time to work together with those for those students. And communication is the very root of everything. You need to communicate with all your other adult ed teachers, your student support staff, the CTE, administration, professional development network, and ICCB, but most of all with your students. If we don't stay in touch with them, then all of our efforts are kind of up in the air. We found that some of them were very comfortable with the phone calls and voice messaging. Others much preferred a text or something they could read, just like if they're learning preferences in the classroom, it carried over into the virtual world. So we did do some Google Hangouts and video chats. And continued on. One way that we had our Students have a little bit of responsibility for the time they were studying. We did send them all a timesheet where they could record the different times during the day that they had studied. Then they could take a picture of that, email it back to their teacher, email it however was best. One of the best things I think that we did just a week ago is Sarah and Bevan come on and we did a remote team teaching training. I had two teachers that were new to team teaching and both a little hesitant for their own reasons. One of them was our Google IT, and he was not sure how to do this because Google IT is a very prescripted. You can't go off. It's built in modules. So he didn't know how he was going to be able to team teach with that. The other one is the teacher is actually from Russia. And so there were some language barriers and some just some differences in her perception of things. But after the webinar with Sarah and Bevan, the teachers were all much more comfortable with each other. They saw a way to get started, and more importantly, they've continued to carry that on. So not everything's going to go smoothly the first time. You're just going to have to be prepared and deal with whatever comes up. What works for one program may not work for another. And I mean that within your own offerings, like our Google IT versus our healthcare. So you just need to kind of keep a record of what worked and what didn't for each one of your programs that you're offering. And don't be afraid to modify the plan midstream. There's no sense to just keep, what is the saying? If you don't change, you keep doing the same thing over and over. So just keep looking at those outcomes. Are you approaching, are the students getting what they need? Are you able to see results? And that's what's going to keep you on track, is making sure that you have met the students where they are and get them prepared for the next step. So thank you. And there's my contact info. And if I could help in any other way, don't hesitate to contact me. Kept it to 15, didn't I?
You did
fine.
great, yes.
Okay.
All right, so thank you to all of our presenters. You see them here on their screen. And we have just a couple of minutes. If you have any questions that you want to put in the question box for any of our panelists, I love that they were all able to share different perspectives, different parts of the state, how they were continuing to play on and how to serve their students. So we'll take just a minute as what we do thank Dan Deasy, Arlene Santos George, Laura Williams, Elizabeth Hobson, and Christina Hutchison. And Christina, I just want to tell you that while you were presenting, your teachers were sending me an email with their outcomes all integrated. So they were working hard while you were working hard. So just good. It's nice to see that. And we're getting lots of people who are putting in, thank you very much for the information and for sharing. So we send that along. And we do have one question. Hold on just a second. Arlene, what do you use to send mass texts is the question. Arlene, you still there that you can help us out with that one?
Yeah. We actually use Blackboard Connect. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's been really a very powerful tool for communicating to students because you all know that they all have phones, right? So for Blackboard Connect, it's actually also easy to attach PDF. So like if you have like a long message, you have that you use Word and then convert it into a PDF and then you just attach it. It basically becomes a link to the students so that they can just click on it and the whole PDF shows up. It's been very powerful. There is, however, another tool. I can't remember the name of the other tool. It's not with Blackboard Connect because actually we are going to purchase it because we're going to Canvas now. We don't use Blackboard anymore starting July 1st. But there is another tool, a text messaging tool that the college is going to be using. I can't remember the name.
All right, and Dan, there's a question for you. Can you tell us about the technology coach? Is it dedicated IT or adult ed staff?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so we set up as part of the IDEA program. The model included technology coaches and technology support to get folks up to speed with the digital literacy training and how to use the hardware and the software that was being used within the program. So we are extending that out and offering that to folks that are registered in the ICAPS programs moving forward. Typically, it is a faculty member that is part of integral part of the team that is delivering the content. They act as a support. So that was built into the IDEA program, and we are extending that out into our ICAPS and IET programs if we continue to offer them at a distance.
And some people ask about Remind, and yes, there are some people, and thank you, Dan, for that.
Welcome.
Yes, so the Remind, I believe Laura, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
I wouldn't be able to talk about it because I haven't used it yet, but a lot of instructors on our college do use that, and it's a text blast. And so we are incorporating that for summer and fall for our instructors because it's supposedly a really easy way to contact a lot of students at once. And again, I've not personally used it yet, but we are going to. And I thought maybe that was what Arlene was alluding to.
Yeah, well, can I also mention, so Remind is not just a text blast tool, but also exchange of, like when they do, I actually subscribe to it now, but anyway, because all my faculty are using Remind also, but it's also a good way to communicate with students in terms of like sending your homework, or visiting resources online. The links can be sent there, and also like taking pictures of your homework and sending that to your instructors.
And I want to mention also the Professional Development Network has done a series of webinars on tools, and Remind was one of them. So if you go to the excellenceandadulted.com website, and I'll put that in the chat box, and that you will get some information if you want to figure out how to use it and get some resources or to share that with your teachers. Yes, and so someone is that they use Remind. They can send links, files through email or text, however they sign up. And let's see, what else do we? Sorry, we have a couple of questions coming in now. Any other suggestions for any of the presenters for virtual intake forms?
Oh, I do have. I don't know if you guys use Adobe Sign. Does anybody, have you guys used Adobe Sign? We started using Adobe Sign just for internal purposes, but I know that our staff is also looking at using it for the intake form.
And in Danville, we're not using a virtual intake form. We actually started taking in-person appointments. We can have 6 students at one time. So we do the initial registration over the phone, and then they come in for their testing. And, of course, we're practicing all the social distancing guidelines, but the college is open now from 10 to 2 each day. And we have one person on site to actually handle that process, but we do over the phone for the actual registration form.
So at CLC, we actually visited or are visiting still the summer classes right now. And like I said, our enrollment services and testing center specialist staff are actually visiting those classes and talking about that virtual intake form. And I think, like I said, they're using Adobe Sign.
At Elgin Community College, we are working very closely with our marketing, communications, and IT. So there's a particular person at the college who this is kind of her role, doing the website things. So we're working with professionals at the college to take care of our intake form and get that online for us.
All right, thank you.
College of DuPage is an assistant. We're in the process of developing a web-based intake form. Right now, we've been taking registrations or student information via email or over the phone, but we are in the process. Our marketing and web development department is in the process of developing an online intake form.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, the link that we have for our online form, I'm going to be able to share it with our WIOA partners, and so that if they have a student sitting there talking about needing adult ed, the person can go ahead and register right there while they're in that office, or at least get this process started so that we can contact them and complete the rest of the registration.
Great, thank you to everybody. Hey, Arlene, if you could take a look in the organizers and panelists chat, because there's been a question about the message tool on Canvas. Could you take a look and see if that looks right to you? Because if so, we want to send it out. Also, there was a question about the training for co-teaching and that Christina talked about, and Bevan and I are happy to do that virtually for you. What we did is we went through, there is on the ICAPS website, and then also it's linked on the Excellence in Adult Ed website, some integrating outcomes training that Will Durden from Washington State. He was at our in-person long ago, last August. Will was with us in person here in Illinois and talked, and so he did some follow-up training, which is archived. And then what Bevan and I did is we made that training come alive for teams of team teachers. So we met in Zoom, we reviewed, we had them bring their outcomes, and they had the content standards, and then we put them in breakout rooms and actually had work time, facilitated work time, that they came together and did integrated lessons and integrated assessments that they could use. So we're happy to do that. Just contact Bevan and or me, and we're happy to do that. And so the recording of this session will be on the ICAPS website, and probably in a day or so. It just takes a little bit of time to download that, prepare it, and put it on, but it should be available very soon. And we'll put a link on the Excellence in Adult Ed website too, because we try to make it as easily available as possible. And yeah, Miley is sharing out to you the link there of recorded webinars on the Excellence site. It'll also be on the ICAPS website. So we will also share the slides of our 5 fabulous presenters today. So if you want to go back and look at some of the information that they shared, that will be there for you very shortly, probably in a day or two, Monday for sure. So let's see. Looks like some other people are suggesting Google Forms. Office 365 has forms for suggestions for virtual intake forms. And DocHub is another one. So thank you to everybody who gave us some good suggestions. Thank you to all of our presenters today. We are all in this storm together, so we may as well help each other out to shore up our boats so that we can sail as effectively as possible. And I'm sorry, I moved from the band plays on to shoring up our boats. Well, we don't want the boat to go down, because that's when the band plays, as you know. So then one other, Arlene says they use the Blackboard Connect. They use Blackboard as their LMS and Canvas. And so, okay, so she's just moving from one to the other. She wants to let you know. So at this time, I think we're probably going to call it a day. And I'll hope you have a great afternoon and a great rest of the week. Thank you to everybody for all that you're doing to support our students out there. And everybody have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there we go.